Hi, I'm Dvoki, and this is Okie Dokie Boki, and I'm doing a little vlog this week. I'm doing my week in science writing vlog, mostly because my husband's back to work. I mean, he's always working, but like he's a professor, so now the school year has started, and so I am home alone. Well, not fully alone. I've got this guy, but basically, whenever like the school year starts now, I'm like kind of just at home talking to myself, and I figured why not talk to a camera. If you notice that I look a little puffy on this side, it's because last Friday I got my wisdom teeth pulled out. It was fine. I was very drugged up for Friday and Saturday. Like, just, I've never had full anesthesia before, and so going through that was like, oh, that's what it's like. I see. Had conversations that I have zero memory of, or I thought they were like things that were happening in a dream, like all sorts of stuff like that. But luckily it was fine. I'm not having a lot of pain, just, the puffiness. It's taken a while. I mean, it's not really taking that long. It's only been a few days, but to me it feels like a while. Yes, the whole point of this is to do a little My Week in Science Writing vlog. So for those of you who are maybe new to the channel, I am a freelance science writer. Most of what I work on is for YouTube or podcasts. For example, I am the writer for Journey to the Microcosmos. I am a host and sometimes writer for the podcast Tiny Matters, which is produced by the American Chemical Society. I work on a few other things as well. Journey to the Microcosmos is a Complexly project, and I work on a few other Complexly things like Scishow Tangents. So I've been doing this for a few years now. I started around 2018, 2019 when I finished grad school, and went into an internship at Scientific American, and after that went into freelancing. And it took me a little bit of time to kind of build up what is for me currently a fairly stable set of projects. It always feels a little bit scary when you're working in media to try to call anything stable, because none of these things ever feel that stable. Anything can change at any moment. That's not a reflection of the projects. That's a reflection of media in general, and just like how things are always shifting, and it's always a little unsettling, and especially as a freelancer. But I'm lucky to work with really cool people on a consistent basis. And right now I'm sort of like on this funny bi-weekly schedule where I have like 1 week that is very deadline light, and then I have another week that is very deadline heavy. And this week is a deadline heavy week, which seems like maybe not a great time to try to also vlog, but I thought maybe that would be kind of fun. Like maybe it'd be fun to kind of go through what that looks like. So yesterday was Labor Day, but I still ended up working. The thing with being a freelancer is that your vacation days are up to you, and oftentimes I am not the best decider of my vacation days. And also because last week I had to take Friday off for the wisdom teeth removal and everything. There's just some stuff that I was behind on. So I did do some work yesterday. Today is Tuesday. So today is a Tangents deadline day because they record on Tuesday. So my job is I am the editorial assistant for Tangents. I think secretly what I like to call myself is the game master, because I usually write one of the games that Hank will deliver for the podcast. And I decided to do a game that I have historically found takes quite a while for me to do, and yet must now do it. And I am very behind, but that's okay. What's going on, Kat? Okay, so I've had lunch, made some soup yesterday. It was pretty good because that is what I can eat right now. I feel like I'm being really dramatic about getting my wisdom teeth out, and it's just because I'm always a baby about anything vaguely medical. But anyways, I had lunch and I spent the morning doing research, and I'm like gonna write up this game now for Tangents. I'm really excited because a few weeks ago, maybe like a month ago now, my co-host for the podcast Tiny Matters, Sam Jones, she and I actually did a little guest appearance on Tangents, which was really, really exciting for us because it was like a meeting of my little podcast worlds. And I kind of joked that I am unable to work on a podcast unless there's a Sam involved. So there is Sam, there's Tangent Sam, and there's Tiny Matters Sam, but Tangent Sam wasn't able to record that day, and so we were like, well, what if we replace Tangent Sam with Tiny Matter Sam? So we tried out this new format for the episode where it's sort of like a battle of the podcast, and it was a ton of fun. It was just so much fun to record. I always have fun recording Tangents because it's a little chaotic. I think for those of you who listen, you probably hopefully have fun listening to it because it is a little bit of a chaos podcast, but it's also a lot of fun to work on as the person who writes the games. Like it is like probably one of the most challenging things that I do because I am personally really bad at games. Like I'm really bad at doing games in particular that involve trying to like trick other people or lie to other people. Like I'm so bad at like those mafia one night werewolf kind of games just because I am so bad at deception. Like it's just not my strong suit. And so stuff like the games that we write for Tangents, I end up spending so much time thinking and overthinking like what the best way to create the game is. And I've learned over time that a lot of times the games that end up going the best, especially for a game like Truth or Fail, where the premise of the game is that Hank is going to tell three science stories, but only one of them is true and everyone else has to figure out which one it is. The first time I wrote one, like it was actually the very first game that I ever wrote for Tangents. I put way too much thought into it. I wrote like paragraphs for each of the stories. It was confusing. It took a long time. It was fun, but like it was not right. And so I have learned over time that the Tangents games that end up working the best are the ones that I usually go into thinking like, this is terrible because I put zero thought into it. Like the more instinctive the fake stories are, the more believable they tend to be. So I don't know. I've just realized in general that Tangents games work best when I do as little thinking as possible for them. I am my own worst enemy, so I still often get in my way. Yeah. It's fun. It's also so fucking hot. It's September and like last week felt like fall, but this week we are back to feeling like summer and I'm like a little bit irritated, but I'm just gonna deal with it. I'm gonna stop whining and get back to work so I can finish writing this game and send it in. Okay, it is time for my post-work walk. I do not know what those loud sounds are, but I finished what I needed to do. It was one of those days where the writing took a little bit more time than I had hoped for, mostly because I just hadn't really planned it out right, like what I was gonna do. But you know, that happens. And especially like, again, I lost my Friday last week, so it's just one of those things. But now I'm on my mandatory walk, and by mandatory I mean that if I don't go outside like now, then the problem is that I just never go outside. And so yeah, walk time. So I'm feeling a lot of relief this morning because last night Sari messaged me and was like, the game went great. So always love that. It sounds like it was a lot of fun. So I'm really excited to hear how that Tangents episode came out. It's going to come out in October. This is like the funny thing. I feel like I'm feeling it more pointedly this year, but like when you are working on like content, when you're working on things that have a schedule or whatever, like my life right now looks like Halloween, or especially like August too. Like in general, August has had a lot of Halloween stuff that I've been working on, and so in my head I am in a Halloween space, but like in life I am not. It's just like that's what my weeks have been for the past few weeks, is thinking about creepy things. Today, what I need to do is everything else. I have like other stuff that I need to do. So I'm recording an episode of Tiny Matters tomorrow. So I have to look over that script that Sam wrote. So we'll do that and kind of just take a look-see. And then I also have to get my Microcosmos stuff going because I have 2 scripts due on Friday. I really feel like over the past few months I've been like really working on just thinking through what my writing research process is, and so I'm getting better about taking notes as I'm doing my research. Usually I'll like read a paper or I'll read some kind of article or something, but I won't like write anything down as I'm doing it. I just kind of like maybe highlight or whatever, or like I'm just sort of like, this thing. That ends up translating over to a writing process that's really inefficient because I don't have things sort of restated in my own words in my own head. Like I don't necessarily have something translated from this is what the paper is telling me into this is what I want to take from the paper. And so then I kind of have to go through that process again later. And it also makes it really hard for me to remember where I'm getting what information from. Like it makes it hard for me to do the references, and that just like inherently makes things more inefficient overall. So I'm getting a little bit better about that overall, like sort of realizing that my writing process is really more a research process with a few words that come out at the end. So trying to kind of front load my work more on the research end rather than thinking about my work lying in the writing end. I don't know if that makes sense. It's a thing that I'm thinking through in general. I feel like other people probably already know this, but everyone comes about their writing process differently, and this is where I'm at. I feel like talking about writing process either feels deeply insufferable or deeply interesting. Like I love hearing other people talk about their writing process, but also at the same time I feel so self-conscious talking about mine because it sounds so pretentious. Like literally all I'm doing is reading some papers and writing some words. Like it's not that complicated, but of course it is kind of complicated and it's always evolving. Anyways, it's the morning now. So a thing that I've been doing lately is really trying to push myself to get on my computer as late as possible in the morning. I'm usually like a person who sits down, turns my computer on, checks my email, starts my day that way, right? Like a pretty normal way. But I have realized that that is like the surest path to me wasting time in the morning, because it just means that I'm like going on to Reddit, going on to the news, going on to like 50 other websites before I actually get to the things that I want to do. And a lot of my work can be done without the computer, and so I'm trying to get better about doing that. So like I kind of do my like morning journal situation. I'll usually do some reading for some of my research, and that's been helping me out, especially in times like these where I have a lot of deadlines and I need to just sit down and focus. And I know that if I get on my computer, I am not going to focus at all. So let's do that. Another thing that I do, or I have been doing lately, that has been really nice for my overall routine, both work-wise, but also non-work-wise. I have always gone kind of back and forth on doing Pomodoro. I find it really helpful. Sometimes not as helpful other times, like sometimes a little bit too structured, but sometimes exactly the kind of structure I need. So Pomodoro is like the 25 minutes of work, 5 minutes break, 4 rounds of that, and then like a 25-minute long break. One of the things that it's been really helpful for me, not just with the focus time, but it's also the break time, because what I've been doing is using those break times to do my friend reading. Because like sometimes like I used to use those break times in ways that are like not always great. Like I would, again, go onto Reddit, go onto other parts of the internet that are just not necessarily where I actually want to be spending my time. They're just easy. They give you that hit of like something's been updated. So instead, at some point in the past year, I got a lot better about using those breaks to do my fun reading, my whatever I want to read kind of reading. So right now I'm currently reading Only a Promise by Mary Ballow. I talked about this a little bit in my library check-in video, but basically I was just looking at the shelves of romance books at my library and was like, let's try this out. I'd read one of her books a long time ago that I still cannot remember the title of, but I ended up really, really loving. It has kind of some twistiness to it. It was a little unexpected. It was deliberately unexpected. I don't know why I said a little unexpected. It was very unexpected, but I had really enjoyed it. And so I'd always kind of meant to read some of her other books. So I am about halfway through this. More than halfway through this. And one of the things I'll say in general about doing this sort of like reading during my break times is like, I think it took me a while to realize I should do that, because I was like, it's only 5 minutes of reading. Like, how much am I actually going to get done in that time? Instead, why not just like read a few news articles or something like that online? But the thing I've come to appreciate is that 5 minutes of reading is like a decent amount of reading. Like even if you get only 1 or 2 pages read in that time, you make progress, and also more importantly, it keeps you in the book. It keeps you in the experience of the book, even in like a small way. And I think like as I get older, I have started to appreciate doing things in smaller steps, like doing things and appreciating progress at much smaller increments than I used to, like doing my work, doing the things I enjoy, doing all of those things in smaller pieces, because it's more manageable, it's less daunting. I get less hung up on like sort of that perfectionist kind of mentality of feeling like I only have this one shot and it has to be perfect, all of that kind of stuff. And even again, like reading, like it translates over into me staying in the experience of reading for fun. Also, yesterday I was talking about how this episode of Tangents that I was on with my co-host for Tiny Matters, Sam Jones, we were on that one. I was talking about that episode and how it came out, and I was very excited for everyone to see it. You can see it, I'll link to it down below. You can also listen to it. It is a podcast, also on YouTube, so all of those options are there. But also, we have an episode of Tiny Matters out this week, which I'm really excited about because it was one of our more kind of loose episodes where we took science questions and science communication questions for Tiny Matters listeners, or from Tiny Matters listeners. We asked them to email us with whatever thing that they're curious about, so that we could answer a few of them on the podcast. And so it was a really fun episode to do. A lot of Tiny Matters episodes that we do are more scripted. Our structure is generally like a 20-ish minute narrative driven episode related to something sciencey. So like, that might be something like typhoid, it might be something like transistors and how small they can get, like, usually a lot more structured. But it's also fun to do these looser episodes. Sam and I have a lot of fun chatting about a bunch of stuff in general. Like we'll record the episodes and just like hang out after and like talk about whatever things we're interested in. So it was fun to get to do that and record that for the podcast itself so that we could talk about cool science things and talk about things that like we knew people who listen to the podcast are interested in. Okay, so I keep forgetting, but today is actually one of the most important days of my month as a freelancer, because today is invoice day, or actually technically tomorrow is invoice day, but today is the day that I draft my invoices. I give myself a day to just kind of write them all up, and then I usually send them the next day. And I basically have sort of a monthly schedule. I basically will send all my invoices to everyone around the 7th of each month and then give them 30 days to pay it. And that sort of just started because I had someone that I was working for that was like, hey, send your invoices to us by the 7th. And so it sort of just became like, okay, if I'm getting my invoices for them done by the 7th, I might as well do that for everyone. And it just makes it so much easier if you're kind of doing them all at once. It makes it both easy on the like invoice creation side, because it's like, okay, I'm just sitting down, getting them all done. I'm keeping track of everything that I did for the past month. And especially as a freelancer, I'm getting paid in different ways. Like some things I get paid on a retainer, some things I get paid per project, some things I get paid hourly. So it's kind of nice to be able to just kind of sit down and do all of that at once so that I can kind of differentiate them and make sure I know what things have gotten done, what things I've invoiced properly and everything. So both on the invoice sending side, it's really helpful. And then on the other end, on the invoice tracking side, it's really helpful because then this is my time to go back on last month's invoices and make sure that everything has been paid and that everything is going fine. And like, I'm really fortunate, again, in general, because of the people that I work with, I've been working with for a long time. And so they're people that I can usually rely on pretty well to make sure that my invoices are going through. And so there have been a few times even then where sometimes something will go wrong. Like there might be just some kind of administrative thing. Maybe they change whatever they were using for accounting. So there are times where my invoices don't get paid on time. And so just having the set time each month that is about both creating my invoices for the last month, but also tracking the invoices that I sent for the previous month, like it just makes it so much easier to have it all at once instead of trying to just kind of do everything sort of as they come. In terms of the nitty gritty of like how I do my invoices, I write up my own invoice spreadsheet on Numbers, which is just like the Mac version of Excel. I used to use this online service called Wave, which is free. Like you can just generate invoices through them, but it just got a little bit frustrating, especially again, because I have weird needs for some of my invoices. Like some of them I really need to break down kind of how I'm spending each of my hours. And so doing that in Wave just became a little bit cumbersome. Whereas if I could do it on a spreadsheet on my own, it was easy to set things up and just have that going forward. So I currently set up all of my invoice spreadsheets each month just using the same template and just put in my numbers and go. And then I track my invoices in a spreadsheet in Airtable, which just lets me both track my invoices. Like I have all of my invoices from starting when I've been freelancing, so going back a few years now in there. So I track, you know, what day I sent it, what date it got paid, how much, who I sent it to, what the project was for, the invoice number, all of that stuff. But I also am able to use it. It's super helpful when I'm going for tax stuff. Basically, actually in like, I think a week or two, I need to turn in my Q3 estimated taxes to the IRS. It's one of those irritating things. And so Airtable just makes it really easy for me to create other tables based on that tell me how much do I need to like set aside for my taxes, how much am I going to actually have to end up paying for each quarter, and then also at the end of the year for the big one, the big taxes, like how much I owe. So using Airtable has been really, really helpful for me for that. It's just made it super nice as a tracking method. Okay, so today's Thursday. I'm busy today. Today is a lot of stuff to do. So we've got Tiny Matters recording today, so I gotta pick out a tiny show and tell, and I have no idea yet what I'm gonna pick. I feel like this is always like a last minute thing, and it is still amazing to me that Sam and I have never come in with the same story. For those of you who don't listen to Tiny Matters, at the end of the episode, like our episodes themselves are like a sort of scripted narrative kind of thing that we're talking about, and then at the end we do a tiny show and tell, which is unscripted. We each come in with like a cool science story, you know, something that we found interesting. It's sort of inspired by actually something I used to do on this channel, my recent science reads, where I would just talk about cool science articles I'd read recently. So we thought that would be kind of fun to do with each other on the podcast. And yeah, it's amazing to me that we still have yet to like pick the same thing. Like there have been a few times where I feel like we've gotten close, but luckily it hasn't happened yet. And I'm saying this now, maybe this is the time. But yeah, I've got my Tiny Matters mug. I'm drinking some coffee now, so I gotta do that. Gotta get all my Tiny Matters ducks in a row. I also need to work on Microcosmos. I still have those 2 scripts that are due tomorrow, and need to make a lot more progress on those. And then just like a little bit some other kind of like odds and ends kind of stuff that I need to get going. I got to send my invoices today. I drafted them up yesterday, but got to make sure I send those today. So there's a lot going on. I also got to take my cat to the vet tomorrow morning, and so that's sort of like shaping what's going on. He has joined me as he usually does. I need him to not know that he's going to the vet tomorrow. There was one time like a few years ago where I was like joking, like the week before I kept telling him like, you're gonna go to the vet, you're gonna go to the vet, and I was like, he doesn't know what I'm talking about. And then the morning that he was supposed to go to the vet, he was hiding. He was like, I'm not coming out. So I am trying to trick him. You're not going to the vet tomorrow, Kat. You're gonna have a really chill day. It's gonna be a lot of fun for you. You know what I'm trying out for the first time, and I feel like this is actually connected to doing this vlog. This week I am trying out for the first time ever using voice memos to brainstorm, like just kind of rambling into my phone about different ideas I have. And it's because I have a few projects kind of in the back of my mind that are sort of like long-term projects that I'm not necessarily doing like a lot of immediate writing for or anything. So like they're things that are like kind of percolating in the back of my head. And so I just need a place to think. And I have always kind of resisted using voice memos, I think just because it feels weird. This is weird as someone who like talks into a camera and a microphone for a living. Like I am used to just talking into things. I have been editing myself for YouTube for years at this point, but there's just something so self-conscious about like rambling into voice memos about an idea that I have. But I have done it twice now in the past 24 hours, less than that probably, and I kind of like it. I mean, we'll see. Like, this is a new thing, and who knows where it will actually go, if it'll actually do anything. But it is kind of nice because I think it sort of like replicates a thing that I have always really liked for writing in general, which is the word vomit draft, where you just sit on your computer and write and don't like edit as you're writing, and just the goal is to get words on the page. And it's been a really useful like thing for me. Like, you know, like a lot of people, I get hung up on, you know, having the perfect words, thinking of the perfect introduction. Doing the word vomit draft is a way of me telling myself what it is I want the thing I'm writing to accomplish without being worried about how I'm accomplishing it. So like that comes later, that comes in revising the word vomit draft. But word vomit draft is just like, I'm writing down all of the ideas unself-consciously and just letting them come out to deal with later. And so there's something about this that's kind of like that, like where I think because you're rambling, you don't see the words on the page, it's just you into the voice memo. There's something kind of like nice about that, where it's just like, okay, I can't edit myself, this is just me thinking. And like, I mean, I do this in like text form all the time. Like I have all sorts of like scribbles and notes jotted down in different places, so it's not like I'm not used to that idea of just like randomly typing that stuff up. But yeah, it was just kind of nice to do it in a different way. Sometimes it's not necessarily like this is better than the other thing. Sometimes it's just like I need to do a different thing than what I've been doing, just to kind of mix it up. And yeah, for now I kind of like this. I think it'll change when it goes back to like, shit, now I gotta actually look through my voice memos and listen to them or transcribe them or whatever. Like that's gonna probably be annoying, but for now I kind of like that. So if you guys like do this, do you have a way that you do this? Like, do you have a way that you organize voice recordings of yourself? Is there an app that you like that maybe does this better? I'm very curious, because I feel like this is something I should do more, because I think it will help me out. Okay, so we finished recording Tiny Matters a few hours ago, and every time I record anything, like just anything, I get so tired after. Like, it's just like talking for a while is tiring. It's like not the most physically demanding thing or anything, just for some reason, combining that with the fact that you're sort of like performing or whatever, I guess there's like energy involved. But I always feel like such a little baby after, because I'm like, I'm sleepy. So now it's time to get back to work. I mean, I ate lunch and I sat and stared into space for a few minutes, but I still have so much left to do today. It is also so fucking hot today. I'm so glad we still have our window ACs in, because otherwise I would be melting and my brain would be fried. So that's a relief. So anyways, now it is time to do Microcosmos, and that is just gonna be a lot of me looking through my papers, looking through what I've been reading, taking notes on all of those, so that I can like do a much better kind of like word vomity outline today, like after that. So really at this point, like I have read a bunch of papers on the things I'm writing about. I use Zotero for papers. This is like pretty new for me. I mean, I used Zotero off and on for a long time. I've gone through all the various like paper reading softwares in the past. In grad school, I tried like a whole bunch, and Zotero was definitely like the least functional of them all when I was in grad school. But right now it's like really serving my needs pretty well. I really like the app on my iPad for actually like reading and taking notes on it. It does a good combo of highlighting and handwritten notes. Sometimes either you can only like highlight and like do the little kind of like in preview or whatever, like you can only do kind of like a little sticky tab that you have to click on, and like that will give you the note. I like being able to kind of like write in the margins. So Zotero lets me do both of those really well and syncs with my computer, has a good organization system, has a great system for just drawing the PDFs out of a web page or importing it or whatever from a website so that I don't have to like download it, transfer it over, and all of that. So for now, at least, I've only been using it a few weeks, but for now, I am liking it. Before, I was using GoodNotes, and before that, I was using Notability, both of which are more sort of like drawing on PDF kind of paper reading methods. Like, it's not great for organizing papers, but they are really nice if you like being able to have a lot of flexibility with how you do your highlighting and like drawing across something. And they were both great for that, but just at the end of the day, I needed something that was a little bit more geared towards organizing articles and PDFs and whatnot. So that's why I'm trying out Zotero, and so far I like it. Okay, so it's Friday. I still have a lot of Microcosmos left to do. And this is one of those weeks where one of the episodes I have like a real sense of like what it's going to be about and what the arc is and what all the details are that I want to talk about. I was going back through my reading yesterday in my notes and was like, oh, right, there's a lot of interesting details for this one. And the other one is a little bit more challenging because it's like one of those ones where finding the right kind of in on the story takes a little bit longer, and kind of figuring out the right way that I want to like, I don't know, put everything together, maybe just like takes a little more thinking, which is fun because it you know, it's hard and you spend time being like, oh shit, how do I write? Can I write? Do I know how to do this job that I've been doing for the past few years? But usually once you find the right thing, it like kind of all comes together. So I think I've sort of like figured that out. It kind of took a little bit of thinking and kind of realizing what I can focus on and what I can't focus on. Usually that's the key. Like realizing the things that you cannot do kind of helps to then push you in the direction of like, okay, what is the right approach that I have the right amount of information for, that we have footage for, that kind of thing. So it will be a busy writing day. I've already warned my husband. This always happens to me because my deadline is on Friday and it's like, oh, I want to do things. It's the weekend. And then somehow like I still have to finish these episodes and it's completely always totally my fault. But that's fine. Aside from that, I also have a busy morning. I have to take my cat to the vet. He is in his carrier. He is very, very, very unhappy about it, but it'll be okay. I've gotten a lot better about putting him in the carrier. I've learned that the key is to close our bedroom door so that he isn't in the bedroom. Basically, if he's in the bedroom when I'm trying to get him to like put in the carrier, you might be able to hear him whining in the background. If I don't, like if he is in the bedroom, he has too many hiding spots. He can go under the bed, he can go under the dressers. It becomes a whole thing where we all spend like 30 minutes chasing each other around, and by the end I'm sweaty, miserable, it's terrible. He's also obviously miserable, more miserable than me, because he's the one who has to go in the carrier. So I have learned to just like, if I get the good luck, if I wake up in the morning and he's not in our room, I close the door, make sure that he does not have the ability to run there, and then grab him and just put him in before he even suspects anything is happening. So that's what I did this morning. He is in his carrier, which is great. The other great thing today, and this is especially good news for my writing for today, Olivia Rodrigo's new album has come out, Guts, which is really great. I love a new pop girl album because it just always is fun. It's just like my favorite day on social media is usually like a new Taylor album, a new Olivia Rodrigo album, a new Lorde album, like all of these days where there's a new one out, I'm like, yep, I get what social media is for. So today is Guts, and I've started listening to it. I'm on Love is Embarrassing right now, but I gotta get in the car shortly to go to the vet. So I'm gonna keep listening to it in the car, probably all day while I'm working. So it's fun for my writing lifestyle because it's just like, oh cool, I get to add a new album to listen to on repeat while I'm working. That's the exciting thing for me for today, is lots of writing, a miserable cat, and Olivia Rodrigo. Okay, so it is the afternoon now. I have made pretty good progress, and I'm like a little bit like at that point where I get restless. I'm like at home, it's Friday, I start to get kind of antsy. So I think I'm gonna go to the library because I need to return some books anyways. And I'm gonna go to the library. Sometimes I find like it's just really nice to kind of change up my location for writing. Getting out of the house is usually like a good start to begin with because you know you can't procrastinate with all your like usual distractions. It kind of makes you go I don't know, into a place where you can't rely on the usual things that help you avoid your work. So I'm gonna go to the library, return some books, try to get as much writing done there as possible in the next few hours, and then come back home, and hopefully I will have made good progress. Also, I want to brag a little bit because this is my stack of library books to return, and I'm really proud of myself because I actually did a good job of reading as much of these as I could. So I finished Only a Promise a few days ago, yesterday, and it was really lovely. I'll probably try to talk about it next week because and next week, I mean, whenever I finally remember to do some kind of review or compilation or something. But it was just a really, really lovely romance. It had these two characters who are kind of my favorite sort of emotionally stupid people, where they're like very pragmatic, but also just like a little bit dumb about how feelings work. And I really enjoyed that. Body Work, which I talked about in my library check-in video. All of these actually I talked about in my library check-in, but if you want to see my thoughts on this, I'll link to that down below. Up to Speed, which I haven't read yet. This is the only one in this pile that I haven't read, but like I talked about in my library check-in video, I checked this out more to kind of vet it before I buy a physical copy of it because I wanted to see if we should read it for Nonfiction Book Club, and it was good in a way that made me intrigued, and that made it so that I was like, yeah, I think we'll do it. The Center and Cassiel's Servant. These are the other two books that I finished. Again, all of the things that I have to say about these books I said in my library check-in video, so I will link to that down below. And Kat, I'm gonna have to leave you. Do you have anything to say about that? You're gonna be fine, aren't you? Okay, so I'm back home. I finished one of the scripts. It's a little rough still. I'm not quite done. I'm like maybe like 50 to 100 words short, and I kind of need to update the intro because as I was writing it, I sort of realized that the original, so basically what happened with this script that I was writing, I started out with sort of like one idea and then was like, maybe I should do another idea instead. That might be a little bit easier. But then as I was working on that other idea, the original one ended up being the thing that flowed the best. So I kind of need to go back in and like update that beginning part just to make it work the way that I actually want it to work. But I had done like 2 hours of solid writing at the library and was like, cool, I need to get up again and go to another location, which is why I'm now back home in my writing spot. That's just part of the process, and so now I'm gonna do the other one, and hopefully that'll be a little bit faster so that I don't have to spend all night working, because I really don't want to, and I don't think anyone wants me to, especially like everybody else, including my cat and my husband, who would probably prefer that I hang out tonight and not like be up late working. I'm not gonna be up late writing. I mean, famous last words, I said that now, but anyways, let's see if I can do this. It's Saturday. The week has ended. I did finish my scripts. I finished them like a little bit before 8 p.m. last night. I'm not proud of that. I think that's like, I don't know. It's just right now I'm not on the schedule that I want to be at, and sometimes it just kind of happens. You know, it's end of summer. I've had travel. I've had other stuff going on where I've just like not been on the schedule that I kind of want to be on. You know, one of the great things, I think I said this before, about being a freelancer is you get to decide your own schedule. But that also means that in times like this where your schedule is not working out the way you want, it's usually your own fault. You kind of can't blame it on anyone else. Like, obviously there are times when you can, but this is not one of them. This is my fault. But that's okay. I finished my work. I got it done. I had a good Friday night. I had a good Saturday. I went to Barnes and Nobles because it's my birthday month, so I have like a little coupon. I did get 2 books. I got I got Up to Speed by Christine Yu. I obviously just returned this to the library yesterday, but that's, like I said, because I had planned to buy it for Nonfiction Book Club. I had just kind of wanted to pre-vet it, pre-vet it, that's redundant. I wanted to vet it before I actually picked it. So I hope that it's good. I'm really hopeful that it'll be an interesting read. And it took me forever to find this book in Barnes and Nobles. I ended up having to get help, and like the lady was super nice and like ran around the store to help me figure out where it was. It was not in the new nonfiction section. It was not in the science section. It was not in the medicine section. It was not in the sports section. It didn't look like it was in the wellness section, but it turns out it was, and I just couldn't see it. I think for some reason in my head, I thought that the binding was gonna be orange. I don't know why. I think this color is the strongest thing in my head, and I just thought that that's what this would look like. And so I was looking for an orange book and was not finding it, so that's on me. But the great news is that I found the single copy of this book at Barnes and Nobles and got to use my coupon on it. The other book I picked up, I had not heard about this book at all. It was in the new nonfiction section. I saw the cover and immediately was like, holy shit, that's a great cover. But this is Empire Incorporated, The Corporations That Built British Colonialism by Philip J. Stern. So yeah, I had not heard about this book before. I did a lot of debating about whether or not I really should be buying it because I've got a lot of books that I need to read, and so like, what am I doing? But it wasn't at my library, and so I just kind of figured, you know what, this is a kind of history that I have been wanting to know more about, like the colonialism, yes, but also like the companies that underlie that. And I didn't realize that that was like a specific thing that I was wondering about until I saw this. And then I was like, oh yes, that is a thing that I've been wanting to know. So I'm gonna read it at some point. Hopefully it is good, because otherwise I'm gonna do that thing where I regret buying a book that I haven't read before. But yes. Oh yeah, Kat, what's going on? Thanks for joining me on this vlog this week. It was a lot of fun to do. I might try to do more of these in the future. So if this is something I do again, if there are specific topics, specific questions about science writing, sorry, there's a lot of thunder going on right now. So if there are specific questions or topics about science writing that you want to know about or you want to ask about, anything related to freelancing that you'd like to know more about, let me know down below, because I'd love to kind of do this in a more, I don't know, I was gonna say thoughtful way. I feel like this was not like a thoughtless vlog. I had a lot of thoughts to tell you guys, but I would love to do this in a way that is like helpful to other people. I really miss doing my Not My Thesis videos, because like I had such a clear idea of what those videos were and like all the stuff about grad school that I wanted to talk about. And so like I've definitely been wanting to do more like discussing science writing kind of videos for this channel, especially like I know there are people who find my channel through my science writing, and so it would be cool to be able to like talk more about all of that stuff. So I'm trying to think of ways to do that, and this vlog was definitely one way that was a lot of fun, and I would love for like ideas on what would make that potentially useful or interesting to you guys. So yeah, if there's anything that occurs to you, just let me know down below, and hopefully I'll do more of these in the future. I'm gonna wrap it up with my handy co-host here, Bastian. He also had quite a week. So thanks you guys, sorry, this is getting a little out of control. Thanks you guys for watching, and bye.